So in terms of studying for this test and the quiz that you guys did today in class, I thought it might be helpful just for me to go over it question by question and sort of take it myself so you can kind of start to see what you're thinking or how you should be thinking when looking at statistics, which in fact is really hard. This is a harder part of psychology because most of you guys came here to study the mind and how it works, and we are looking at math, okay? So I'm going to go through it line by line, and then feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. So question number 1 is asking which scenario below would result in a positive skew in your data set. So a positive skew is here. It's where the mean starts to get enlarged from the median and the mode because you have some outlier scores, okay? So the answer here, let me just read through here really quick, is B, right? So when calculating the average followers of your 100 participants, when calculating the average followers your 100 participants have on Instagram, 10 of your participants are high-profile celebrities, right? So these high-profile celebrities might have over 1 million followers, which is going to definitely be higher than your average high school student, let's say, or your average person, okay? The answer A up here would negatively skew your data if 10 of your participants did not have social media accounts, okay? So positive skew brings your mean above your mean and median. Your positive skew brings your mean above your median and your mode, and the negative skew does the opposite. All right, so which number here represents the strongest correlation? So remember that strength in correlation is how close your number is to 1 or -1. Okay, so the number here that's going to be the strongest correlation, it could be positive or it could be negative. It's the closest number to 1 or -1. So in this case, we have one that is exactly -1. That's going to be our answer. All right. If this bell curve represented data you collected on your classmates' GPAs, what percentage of your classmates would fall within 3 standard deviations of the mean? Okay, I've added a couple of videos on the bell curve to Schoology if you want to check them out. But essentially, these are your standard deviations. So here's 3 standard deviations this way. Here's 3 standard deviations this way. So we have some positive standard deviations, meaning that these people's scores are higher than the mean, and these people's scores over here are lower than the mean. And so I said within 3 standard deviations. I didn't say above or below 3 standard deviations. We're talking about both sides of the spectrum here, okay? So those that fall within 1 are 68%. Those that fall within 2 are about 95%. Those that fall within 3 are about 99%. All right. Which example would cause a negative skew in your data? So hopefully, because we already talked about the one with the social media followers, this will be helpful, okay? The negative skew is going to be a few of your participants scoring extremely low on an IQ test, okay? Many of you put all of your participants scoring extremely low, but remember, if everybody scores low, the mean is going to be very close to the mode and the median. It's when the outlier scores happen that you have a skew in your data. All right, here's also something really important to remember about correlation. Positive correlation is when 2 variables move in the same direction, either up or down together. A negative correlation is when as one variable goes up, the other one goes down. Okay, so here we're looking for a positive correlation. So we're looking for 2 variables to move together. So let me just check this out right here. And the answer here is going to be A, a relationship between 2 variables in which both variables move in the same direction, okay? B would be a negative correlation. C would be no correlation. And then D is kind of tricky here because this is correct. It's a relationship between 2 variables in which both variables increase. However, it's not the whole definition because it could also be decreasing together. So A is your best answer. It's when they move in the same direction, both positively or both negatively. Which example below represents a negative correlation, right? So remember, a negative correlation, one variable goes up, one variable goes down. All right. So here, it would be, as stress levels decrease, rates of happiness increase, right? Stress is doing this, happiness is doing this. In all of these other ones, we have a positive correlation. Study time goes up, GPA goes up. Stress levels decrease, depression decreases. Study time drops, GPA drops. So D is the correct answer. All right, let's pretend you just ran some data and the chart below represents your results. What percentage of your participants score within one standard deviation of your mean? So very similar to the other standard deviation score, we want to know who scores within one standard deviation. I didn't say who scored one standard deviation above the mean. I said within, which means that we're going to look at both sides of the bell curve. Okay, so in this case, the answer is B, 68%. All right, true or false? Researchers have found that as students sleep less, their mental health declines. This is an example of a positive correlation, right? So we have sleep decreasing, mental health declining. That is a positive correlation. All right, so the picture here represents a negative correlation. And so you know that because you should read this chart from left to right. And so as you're reading and the line drops, even though this is not a very strong correlation because the dots are all over the place, the line moving downward will signal to you that it is a negative correlation. A positive correlation is going to do the opposite. Last one, yes or no? You just finished running inferential statistics on an experiment that you did with your research team. Your data reveals that you have a p-value of 0.03. In this case, is your data statistically significant? So remember, the threshold is really high, and you need to be at least 95% sure that your results are not due to chance, which means that you need a p of 0.05 or less. It's impossible to have a 0p, but any p between 0 and 0.05 is statistically significant. So in this case, your answer is yes, it is statistically significant. If this was the same answer, but I asked you if the p-value was 0.08, the answer would be no, because you would only be 92% sure. Okay, so the p-value to be statistically significant needs to be between 0 and 0.05. All right, and it's not going to let me submit because I'm in the teacher mode. Hopefully this makes sense to you guys. Do watch this, I think, after you take the quiz. And if something still doesn't make sense, reach out to me so we can chat about it.